Wait a minute. This is a good story. I think we want to get.
We got it.
Oh, okay. Start over again.
We had a marshal, John Spurgeon. He was a professional wrestler. And he'd always get to a disturbance about 15 minutes after it had ceased to be a disturbance. But he said that he wasn't paid to fight, he was just paid to be marshal. I recall one time he picked up a boy here in town that he was an awfully fine fellow, but he would get drunk and in spite of anything we could do with him. So Marshall picked him up, and John Boland, the Methodist preacher, was mayor at that time, and police judge. They tried him in my office, and the boy said, "Now, John said, I'll pay you Friday." And John said, "Well, I haven't found you guilty yet, nor assessed any punishment." Well, he said, "I'll pay you Friday anyway." So John asked the marshal what he'd seen, and he told him that Tommy, the boy's name, had been drunk and created a little disturbance here in town. So the mayor, acting as police judge, said, "In that case, I'll fine you $15. Pay you Friday. Pay you Friday. I told you I would." Now he says, "Can I have my whiskey?" It took whiskey off of him, a fifth of bourbon whiskey, and he just drank about an inch out of the top of the bottle. Well, John said, no, you can't have that whiskey. It's not good for you. He said, "Marshal, will you take the whiskey and throw it out the window?" And we was upstairs over the drugstore. It must have been 15 or 20 feet to the ground. And he tossed that bottle out there, and it hit and didn't break. Tommy said, "Well, that's okay." He said, "I'll go down and get it for you." So, and then while they sent somebody down to bust the bottle, the mayor and the marshal got to trading ties, neckties. And the mayor admired Marshall's tie, and the marshal didn't give a dadgum whether he had a tie on or not. So they swapped ties while the boy was going down to break the bottle. That is one of the early cases that we heard here.
What has there been much? Tell us about crime in this county. In your experience, has it been a peaceable place or a violent place?
It would be peaceful for about 2 or 3 months, and then violence would break out. The first few years that I was prosecutor, if we didn't have a killing every 2 months, we thought that there's something wrong with people. But
Has that changed?
it has changed.
Why?
I don't know. Maybe the bad boys just killed themselves off or died from old age. But we don't have any. Well, not much anymore. We tried a murder case here this last week.
You suggested to me in conversation one time that you've seen a different group of people come in here, and we didn't go into that too much, but you feel that there's been a change in the character of the population somewhat as a result of new people coming in, or some of the older families disappearing?
I would say, Bob, that the main change is education. The high schools have come in here, and everybody has a chance at high school education now. And that has done more than any other one thing to forestall violence.
Could you go into that a little bit? And a lot of people think in the country now that the schools are a source of violence. What do you see as being the thing in the school that has calmed the savage breast or whatever?
Well, discipline. Now, I don't know about the other schools, but Shannon Ennis is a stern disciplinarian. And whenever a boy or a girl misbehaves, he brings them in and brings them to talk. That is a thing, I think, that has still the violence in the county is discipline in the high schools and in the grade schools. They've been consolidated. In the old days, you know, these country schools, and I think that there was 60 or 70 or maybe 80 grade school, country schools in this county. And some of them would have 4 months terms, and some would 5, a few 6. But the rest of the time, the boys and the girls were on their own, and no discipline. And oftentimes in these country schools, it would just be daybreak boy or girl teaching school, and they didn't have any. They have some respect for the teacher, but the teacher was one of the gang, and discipline wasn't too stern in those days.
Have you seen attitudes toward education change over the years?
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's a fact.
Has it grown to be a greater respect for education, or has it gone the other way?
It has been a greater respect, especially in the last 30 years. Now, if a high school graduate doesn't have any ambition to go on to college and get some college hours, they're looked down on. They just considered a ne'er-do-well. In the old days, why, nobody had an opportunity to go to college, and no inclination. But now, at this time, if a high school graduate doesn't undertake to have some college hours, why, he is looked down on as a ne'er-do-well.
Well, that raises another interesting question, which is this: what confers status in this county? Now, you just said one of the things that confers status, which is education, more than it used to. What other things confer status on a man or on a woman? And if that's changed, tell us how.
That hasn't changed too much. Because honesty and uprightness and community spirit has always marked the better class of people in this county. And I don't think that has changed, because it's still, nobody, no one person can aspire to respect of the community unless he's honest, earnest, sincere in his work, and shows industry.
Well, I don't know how to characterize the people that you wouldn't fit into that class of the better class in this county, but if we can say the other people, what confers status to those who are perhaps not leaders? If there is another class, and I've heard many people say, Judge Green, that there are classes in this county, and it's a little hard to put names on them, but I've come to appreciate the fact that without derogating anybody, that there are different classes and people with perhaps with different backgrounds, and in some of these other perhaps less well-educated or less affluent classes, what confers status?
Honesty and ability to work, ability and ambition to work.
So the same thing holds true across classes with regard to honesty and integrity and work.
That's a fact. If you see a man going down the street, well, there goes John Jones or Pete Smith or whomever. He's no good. He won't work, and he'll lie to you, and he'll cheat you in any way he can. But then be a fellow following him, there's Bill, and he's a worker. And you can depend on what he tells you. So that is the distinction between the classes, and that's about the only one that you can put your finger on.
Is there toleration of eccentricity and strong individualism here?
Some, not too much. People mostly here are of a general level. That is, the leaders are of a general level,